Hi, everyone. I wanted to hop on here and talk about what happened yesterday at the Spokane protest at the ICE Detention Center. I was one of the citizens who showed up to protest against them taking these young men, and I'm going to explain how that happened. But um, I really just want to talk first about these kids' journey for the little bit that I know, and just kind of thinking it through as a mom. I mean, my heart really like hurts for them today, because they were taken to the Tacoma Detention Center, and then from there, who knows what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to be deported to Venezuela. I don't know if they're going to be sent to, say, like El Salvador. They're talking about Guantanamo. I mean, who knows? But that's, I'm sure, terrifying. And I'm sure they're terrified. And I mean, you have to think about, like, they came here as teenagers. Like, imagine their parents sending them to, come here to be safe. I mean, all of us as parents would do the exact same thing. I mean, many of us who were standing there in protest were talking about that, if something would happen here with our children, who are all, early 20s, what would we do? Like, if there was going to be like a mandatory draft and they were going to try to draft our children into a war, what would you do? And so I, I I can only imagine how heartbreaking and scary it was for their parents to send them initially as teenagers, and then to know that they've been safe all this time and now they're being maybe sent back to be killed, to be put into a gang, or maybe sent worse to El Salvador where they could just never come out. I, th- that just, it really, like, honestly, like, makes me want to cry. Like, I have a hard time not crying on here for that because it makes my heart hurt as a mom. It really does. Um, but what I want to talk about is kind of how it happened yesterday, because, it's going to get spun. It's going to get spun that it was, all these like Soros backed, or, all kinds of other bullshit. It was just completely untrue. It really, what had happened is Ben Stuckart, who's the guardian of one of the 21-year-old, he was appointed as the legal guardian. He's a former Spokane city councilman, so he has a lot of connections in the city. And then there's a lot of us who have been, volunteers for different things, community things or protests. And so we're all kind of connected on Facebook or Instagram or Blue Sky, threads. Like, everybody's pretty connected via social media, which is one of the really good things about social media. I know there's a lot of crap that goes out about it, but that is one of the good things. Is grassroots organization can happen organically, just like this. And what happened is he basically put out, like, the social media call, and people started seeing it, just like me. I mean, I was working. It was the end of the workday, and there was a planned protest against ICE at 7 o'clock. But he was like, I need everybody who can get here before 7 to get here. So a lot of us showed up. And what we found is that they were trying to, he was there and there were other people there, and they were preventing ICE from leaving with these kids. We found out that he is only the legal guardian of the 21-year-old, but there was also a 23-year-old. Now, here's what happened with these kids. These kids have been here since they were teenagers. Just like I said, heartbreaking to think about their journey. Um, they've been here going through the process of asylum. They have work permits. They've been working. They've been lawful. They've done absolutely nothing at all to deserve this. Nothing. They they were just going for their check-in. they're going to check in, which is what you have to do when you're, seeking citizenship. Um, and and they took them. So they just show up, you leave work and you leave your shift, and you say, okay, I'm going to go do my check-in, and you never return. That's what we're doing to people. I mean, we're basically kidnapping people as a US government. Look, everybody wants to talk about, oh, like so and so did the millions of deportations, and they did. And I don't necessarily agree with millions of deportations, but they were done through due process. That is the difference. They were not grabbing people at their check-ins, grabbing people at Home Depot, grabbing people out of their homes, which is also what happened here last month to Martin Diaz. He was grabbed like out of his yard and taken and detained. So none of this is how this immigration reform should be done. This is violence. This is state level violence, and I will not call it anything else. And I saw it firsthand. I have video proof. If you look at my page, and I will be posting it here on TikTok as well, that you see ICE is the one that started throwing people. ICE is the one. Now, what I also saw was people, just peacefully standing. Everybody who was there said, we are not going to push. We are going to stand in their way. We are going to try to talk to them, but we are not going to engage in violence. ICE engaged in violence initially. They were the ones who started throwing people to the ground initially. And then later, as the day went, they called in the Spokane Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. And the Sheriff's Department assisted. And that's where I'd like to have a bone to pick with the state of Washington. Because the state of Washington and the mayor of Spokane came out yesterday before she put a curfew. Now, here's a point about that curfew. It was complete bullshit, because they told us a curfew at 9:30, but there was literally a soccer game on the street behind the ICE facility that was still going on. So, cry me a river that like, oh my gosh, the whole city is under siege. Bullshit. It wasn't. And literally, I parked not even a block, like a half a block from the ICE facility. I was able to leave and walk to my car. Give me a break. None of that was happening. But the mayor, Lisa Brown, I'd like to call her out, because she said in the Keep Washington Working Act, we, value protest, or I don't know, whatever all that she said. I'm not going to quote her. But she didn't, because the summary of the Keep Washington Working Act says, in passing the Keep Washington Working Act, the legislator determined that it is not state or local law enforcement's primary purpose to enforce civil federal immigration law. Additionally, the legislature determined that persons' immigration status, presence in the country, or employment alone is not a matter for police action, reinforcing that the federal government bears the primary jurisdiction to enforce federal immigration law. Importantly, Keep Washington Working Act places no restriction on local agencies' ability to enforce state and local law. So to me, the problem with that is we, as citizens, didn't allow ICE to leave with those kids. We, as citizens, were working with immigration attorneys who, by the way, they would not let into the facility. They were outside, over in a corner, on the street, like literally in the shade, like furiously pecking on their laptops to try to help these kids. But they wouldn't let them in. They had absolutely no resources that were given to them. I mean, imagine your son or daughter who's young. They're not going to be able to advocate for themselves. So we were standing up for them as citizens. We were asking for them to be released and to continue through the normal due process. Sure, take them to court, take them in front of an immigration judge, and let their case be pled. And if they are deemed to be deported, then that's fine. Then they're deemed to be deported. If they're not, then they stay and go through the process like they've been doing. That was what we were asking for. That's what everyone has been asking for in Los Angeles, in Omaha yesterday. They were taking them. I mean, that's all anyone has been asking for. So for the mayor to say, one, to put a curfew in, two, to allow the police to come in. So the police basically came in and pushed the crowd away from the building, ensuring that ICE could detain these boys and take them to the Tacoma Detention Center where they are now today. So tell me again how you're not helping enforce federal immigration laws, because you just did. You just did. And I actually asked one of the police officers that in person, and he said, well, we're not helping with detentions. I said, but yes, you are, by pushing the crowd back and allowing this to happen, and not allowing the attorney, and not saying, hey, the attorneys need to go in there. The attorneys need to be in there to advocate. We need to go through the normal process. They basically